Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. As many of you might be knowing, research scholars at the MPhil and PhD level up until very recently, even today for that matter, continue to get a stipend from the government, especially those who are registered as scholars with the central universities receive a stipend from the government called the non-net fellowship. Now, very recently, like a week ago or so, the UGC arranged a panel led by Professor Gautam Bodua proposing that they would scrap this non-net scholarship and replace it with another scholarship which would give the amount of money to only those who would qualify for the net exam. This has several implications and this could destroy higher education in India as we know it today. So in today's video, we will talk about why it's bad, what exactly was the non-net fellowship, what we can do to ensure that it is not scrapped off, and why exactly is the center doing it. So, welcome. As many of you might be knowing, I personally am pursuing my MPhil from the Department of English, University of Delhi. And before the pandemic began, I stayed in Delhi from September 2019 to March 2020. And during these 6 months, I was well aware of the fact that later on in the day, I would get my non-net fellowship of 5,000 rupees a month. Now, as many of you know, to study in a central university, you would have to pay some money. Some places require you to pay a course fee of a higher amount. Some places require you to pay for a hostel fee if you're staying there at a hostel. Or if you're staying outside the hostel in a PG, then you might need to pay for that as well. So all of these expenses were usually covered a little bit by the non-net scholarship. Now, some of you might be asking what exactly is the non-net scholarship, what is the amount, why is it given, so on and so forth. Now, this policy was in tandem with the kind of scholarships offered in countries like Germany, Ireland, France, Netherlands and many others, where every research scholar was thought of as worthy of a certain sum of money from the government so that they could continue with their research without thinking too much about their financial woes. Now in India, if you are a registered MPhil scholar who has not cracked the JRF, you will get 5,000 rupees. If you are a registered PhD scholar who hasn't cracked the JRF, you will get 8,000 rupees. This is the non-net scholarship. And when I say that you haven't cracked the JRF, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have cracked the net. Even if you have not cracked the net, you will still get this 5,000 rupees. Now this kind of a scholarship created certain kinds of problems amongst scholars because there were some who had cracked net and some who hadn't. So they thought that if we have cracked net, why are we not getting any extra kind of benefit in the scholarship, which is the quote-unquote premise on which this entire decision is based. This non-net scholarship actually is called the non-net and non-JRF scholarship. If you ever fill out a form, I'll show you one of the forms which we filled during our course at the University of Delhi on your screen. You will see that it has the word non-net and non-JRF in the very title itself. Now, this scholarship ensured that everyone got some money, right? Now, to begin with, this amount is not that huge anyway. But even then, it's something. At the very beginning, we must mention that universities like DU, where I study, take months, sometimes 6 to 8 months to process your non-net payment and send you money, not monthly, but once every 3 months officially and actually once every 6 months. I have experienced this myself along with some other of my classmates. But even then it was still some amount and it contributed even a little towards your financial independence or your financial capabilities, and UGC is now planning to scrap it. Imagine that you are a government who does not want its students to know a lot, right? In that situation, why would you promote higher education? Which is exactly the question which the central and in many cases the state government as well is asking itself. And since it doesn't want to promote education, therefore what it does is it tries to reduce the funding in higher education to ensure that lesser and lesser amount of people actually go there. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, the amount of funds we could allocate to the education sector was substantially decreased. But even then, this is no reason to completely do away with the funding. Now, though this panel proposes that while the ones who have not qualified for NET will not be given the amount, the ones who actually qualify for NET will be given a higher amount, not 5,000 and 8,000 respectively, but a higher amount. Now what this higher amount will be is not very clear to us. Now the problem with this kind of a setup is that not everyone can clear NET during their master degree days. Many students and research scholars actually plan to take NET after they have qualified their master's degree or after they have started their research degree. Now if this continues, then people will be forced to take their NET during their master degree, which is something not very bad. I had recommended it in my UGC NET video anyway, but not everyone would want to do it anyway. But this would ensure that you have to take the NET right at the level of your masters, and what that will do is that will ensure that some of them will get JRF, and since number of PhD seats are not increasing but the candidates are increasing, and in some cases number of PhD seats are decreasing, therefore people will eventually end up not being able to use their JRF, because JRF has a time period, as I had already mentioned in another of my videos. Therefore the budget of higher education is decreasing quite deliberately, I am afraid, and that is the main reason why higher education is not given that much amount of money and this scholarship is being scrapped. Imagine you are in a class of 50 people, and in that 50 people 30 people have NET and 20 people don't have NET. Now if you want to give, instead of 5,000 rupees, 8,000 rupees to those 30 people, and compare that to giving 5,000 people to 5,000 rupees to 50 people, compare those two amounts and you will see which is the bigger amount. And therefore this is just one course for one department for one university. Now imagine this on a larger scale and you will see that the UGC and the central government will actually end up saving a lot of money while they actually plan and scrap this scholarship. Many of you, after seeing the news on websites, Facebook and WhatsApp groups, were wondering what would be the implication of this, especially for those of you who are interested in higher research. Well, the first implication is that the importance of the NET exam is increasing day by day. We thought initially back in 2016, 17, 18 that NET as an exam will lose its importance given the compulsory nature of PhD in terms of recruitment in the post of assistant professor at college and university levels, which was impending at that point of time. It is still impending, by the way. But the fact remains that NET as an exam has now gained more importance. Whether you crack NET or not will actually now determine whether you will get a scholarship when you go to a university to pursue your higher education or not. And this could also mean that the NET certificate, which till date lasted you a lifetime, can come with an expiry date now. Since that certificate will give you a scholarship and not your position as a registered research scholar, therefore it is highly probable that your NET certificate can come with an expiry date very soon in the future. And though it is highly improbable that the expiry date will be as short as that of JRF, which is now 3 years, but it will not be more than 5 to 6 years in my opinion. Though this is a conjecture, there is a high possibility of this happening. And the second implication is that this pushes people who are not so financially well off to go away from higher education to other sectors of the society. Now, Higher education as a sector is a very promising one. I myself am a part of it, and almost everyone who watches my channel wants to be a part of it or already is a part of it. Therefore, I always encourage people to go into higher education because it's a very promising and fulfilling industry, especially the line of teaching. Therefore, this kind of a rule or this kind of a scrapping would ensure that lesser and lesser people would go into higher education, which is not very good for us. In the year 2015, the UGC had actually planned this once. They had wanted to scrap off the non-net scholarship, and there was a gherao in UGC which actually led them to continue this, and the panel, which was then also headed by Professor Gautam Bodua, actually managed to extend the non-net scholarship. So why am I mentioning this? Because the only way to ensure that UGC does not do this is by writing to them. Now, in the present day and age, it's not possible to go on rallies, to organize protests, to organize large gatherings because of COVID, which is very convenient for the authorities, so as to speak. But we can still write emails to them, write letters to them like we did in the PSC video. Therefore, everyone who is interested to pursue higher education and is scared because of this, I would request you to write a letter to the chairman or the secretary of the UGC. Their email address will be given down in the description, but you can write them a letter. I'll also put down the address of UGC down in the description and a few news article links which talk about this event and why it's so important. I'll put all of them down in the description. It is our duty as a research community to together work against this, to ensure that more and more people still come to higher education and enrich our community as it is. So that is all for today. Thank you for watching my video. If you have any questions, queries, doubts or comments, please don't forget to leave them down below. And yes, please also don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to my channel. I will see everyone in the next video. Till then, hasta la vista.